we were never sure what the nuns did. You know, I loved them in school, but then they sort of disappeared after that. And they used to go to church 2 by 2. And we always laughed. We thought they looked like penguins, you know, when they were all walking.
I grew up in an Episcopalian family, Methodist mother actually, and Episcopalian father, and drugs were starting to come in LA. And they wanted to send me to a safe place. So they sent me to Providence High School. And it was probably the least safe place as far as my parents were concerned, because I became a Catholic there.
I worked at Boeing's during the wars, and I was in the welding shop. They prepared me for riveting. But I went in the welding shop, there were 30 men or 2 women, and the other one was married. So you know I had all kinds of attention. And I lived in the university district. My aunt had a boarding house for young boys at the university. So 17 guys lived in the house. So it wasn't I didn't have dates and fun. I had lots of them.
I don't think it's a mysterious, mystical type of thing. I think it's a very true but reasonable kind of response to knowing who you are.
When I graduated from high school, I wasn't particularly interested in going right away to the community, even though I felt called to it. I wanted to have fun. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this for the last time and this for the last time, and then I'll go.
Every night I'd say a little prayer. God, lead me to do what you want me to do with my life for others. And I ended up choosing to be a Sister of Providence.
In the early 1800s, Montreal's Notre Dame Cathedral was a place of great joy for a young woman named Emily Gamelin. She was married in the cathedral, and her children were baptized there. But soon thereafter, Notre Dame became a sanctuary for Emily's sadness and sorrow. The deaths of her husband and 3 young sons, all in 5 years' time, plunged her into unimaginable grief. Through her aching loneliness, she found solace in serving the poor and vulnerable, her calling to the work ultimately leading to her life as a woman religious. In 1844, Emily became Mother Gamelin, the first superior general of what would later become the Sisters of Providence.
Our foundress had a very special devotion to our Mother of Sorrows, to Mary as she experienced deep sorrow in her life because of her connection with Jesus. Mary had lost her son, and Emily had lost her 3 sons and her husband.
As foundress, the basic truths of her life, and those of all Sisters of Providence to follow, were, in her own words, humility, simplicity, and charity.
To be a Sister of Providence is to be involved in some kind of service to others. Wherever a sister is involved and she is carrying out her ministry, then that's what she is doing. She is revealing Providence, and she's also in this world letting people know that there is a compassionate, sorrowful mother who they can turn to when there are times when things aren't going as well as they would like them to go in their lives.
The challenge of religious life is community life, actually. Like I always often say, it brings joy, but it also is the most challenging part, at least for me. But I'm glad to say that I have experienced more joys than challenges.
I guess I'd say I've lived a religious life, but I don't think I knew when I entered what that meant. So it's a way of living and being. But you've got to be a human being first, and then you make it a religious life.
On a damp December day in 1856, a small group of French-Canadian Catholic sisters arrived at Fort Vancouver, Washington Territory. having left their homes and families in Montreal, Quebec. And after a month-long winter journey by ship, the 5 sisters humbly began a legacy of care and compassion in the rough-and-tumble Pacific Northwest. Bishop Bourget of Montreal dedicated the mission to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and bestowed a name on its leader and new superior, Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart. 13 years earlier, she had become Sister Joseph under the spiritual guidance of Mother Gamelin in Montreal. Living conditions at Fort Vancouver were rustic at best. While the sisters' arrival had been eagerly anticipated, few preparations had been made. The first so-called convent was the attic of the local bishop's house. The women had virtually no resources. There were no schools or hospitals in the area. The cultures and customs were new and different. Even the language was foreign to most of them. But the sisters were rich in faith, determined to live their mission of bringing Christ into every life, caring for the sick and the poor, and educating children. For them, the good fight had just begun.
Mother Joseph was very capable and deeply spiritual in her own way. And when she went to the West, she listened to people's stories and kept her eyes open and noticed the needs. And those first sisters responded with generosity.
When they arrived, it was immediately someone needed health care. Basically, they came to the door and they had needs to be taken care of. An orphan would be brought to their doorstep, or young people needed to be taught to read and write.
We are called to serve the poor. And if you do not have an education, if you cannot work yourself into the system, then you are extremely poor and you can only get poorer. And so what we have done in the story of Catholic schools in the United States of America is take these children and provide them with the opportunity to be able to read well, to be able to write well, to be able to work with numbers, to understand science, to begin to understand how things should work and function so that they can make a difference in the world.
The sisters wasted little time in opening the territory's first school, and shortly after, the Northwest's first permanent hospital. The turn of the century found them traveling across and changing an entire region. By whatever means available, they traveled across Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Montana, British Columbia, and ultimately Alaska and California on their continuing mission to nurture and educate. Many trips were for the express purpose of begging for support of their institutions, often pleading with miners for flecks of gold dust and small nuggets. During Mother Joseph's 45-year ministry in the West, more than 30 schools, hospitals, orphanages, and homes were founded. Mother Joseph drew her last breath in 1902 in a room adjoining the chapel at Providence Academy. Blessed with a keen mind and a complex personality, she was many things to many people. Politically savvy, compassionate, tough, deeply spiritual, sometimes difficult, a leader, and always a devoted follower.
My dear sisters, allow me to recommend to you the care of the poor in our houses, as well as those without. Take good care of them. Have no fear of them. Assist them and receive them. Then you will have no regrets. Do not say, this does not concern me. Let others see to them. My sisters, whatever concerns the poor is always our affair. Mother Joseph, 1902.
Well, I think if the Sisters of Providence are going to continue, we've got to make changes.
I think we're going to look a lot different from a group of celibate women living together, conducting ministries.
The ministries that have begun are going to continue through people that have also been touched by that same spirit, that Mother Joseph and the Four Sisters had in 1856.
You know, even if we don't have more Sisters of Providence in the next 20 years, we have lots of people committed to the mission, and that's the important part.
There may be married couples living in community with us. There may be single men, single women. Those may be the communities of Providence. So even now we're already talking about Providence people instead of Sisters of Providence.
I think there'll always be something that we can do, and I hope we'll be there to do it, to meet the need that presents itself today.
5 arrived in 1856. In the century and a half since, hundreds have answered the call and become Sisters of Providence, serving in ministries across the West and around the globe.